Finally, in the midst of all of this, my brain gave me a plan. But it wasn't exactly a good plan. In fact, so much was left to chance that it was highly unlikely to work. But there was a chance. Nylea, I thought, I need to ask you something. I think I have a plan, but it's 50-50. And by that, I don't mean there's a 50% chance it's gonna work. I mean there are only two sides to the story. Either it works, and it's slim odds that it will, and we win. But if it fails, if anything goes wrong, even a little, we're goners. We'll die right there on the spot. This plan requires that I sacrifice all defense, give it up, and focus absolutely everything on attack. If I don't take out basically all of them within an exceptionally short time frame, we're screwed. Simple as that. And with the condition I'm in, honestly, I don't look favorably on our odds. But it's the best thing that I could come up with. Our only real chance. But I don't want to drag you and the kid along for it. Not if you're not willing. So, if you want out, now's the time. I can give you a small portion of the liquid steel. You can control it, right? So, you can take yourself, the kid, and the symbiote we picked up, and run for it. Make an attempt to escape while I try to deal with them. It might be distracting enough for you to get out, or hide somewhere until they're gone. Your odds of survival, of being able to find a host within a reasonable amount of time, may not be good, but the odds of me coming out of this are next to zilch, at least as far as my brain can consider. So it's up to you. What do you want to do? I thought there might be some hesitation in Nylea's response. Don't ask silly questions. Listen to me close, Kevin. I am of the royal bloodline. I have never abandoned one of my hosts, regardless of the danger of the situation. We're partners, and partners don't leave each other to die. So if you're going in, I'm going in with you. Whatever this plan is, succeed or fail, I will join you in your fate. That is part of the partnership, the bond between a symbiote and their host. I will either die with you or leave you once you die of old age. Those are the options. Okay, glad to hear you're on board, because this is gonna be, well, just crazy. Cross your fingers, and if you don't have them, imagine crossing them, I thought to Nylea, before looking over my shoulder to the Goliath holding on to me. Hey guy, I said, smiling under my helmet. You want to see something cool? And suddenly, there was a shift. The metal of my helmet liquefied, shooting into his face and crawling up his nose, down his throat, heading into his lungs. At the exact same time, I broke down the bottom half of my armor, everything from the waist down, and sent it flying towards the two goons, the one who creates shields and the one who manipulates the concrete and stone. A stream of silver liquid flying in their direction, rapidly. Meanwhile, I broke down half of my upper armor, sending it flying at the guy in the suit and the red mask. As the armor around my head began to liquefy, there was a small amount of space, a gap, created by the difference between the armor on my exterior and my actual body on the inside. In the brief moment that I was liquefying it, it created a small gap that I used to slide out of his grasp. As I slipped out, he felt it, but with liquid metal covering his face, running into his lungs, he couldn't see. And now, he couldn't breathe. I just had to hope that his lungs weren't super powerful too, and somehow able to force out the liquid steel. So without any hesitation at all, my body racked with pain, I took off at a full sprint, everything hurting, the liquid steel from my shoulder, at least a small portion of it, flowing to cover my face with an exceptionally thin layer. Basically nothing at all, only enough so that people couldn't see my face. And the other half of my upper armor I used to create a hammer, a fairly long-handled war hammer of sorts. As I dashed towards the man in the suit and the mask, I began to see small bits of concrete, stone lifting and moving in the path that I was traveling to the masked man. It was Stone or Concrete Boy, whatever the hell you want to call him. I looked over to see that he was raising his hand, trying to catch me in another ball of concrete, I suppose. Meanwhile, his friend, seeing the liquid metal heading their direction, had raised his hand and created a barrier encompassing him and Concrete Boy. Perfect. They did exactly what I wanted them to do. Work. It has to work. The liquid metal I sent in their direction, made of the entire bottom half of my suit, impacted the shield. But instead of hardening or forming any kind of weapon, I spread it out, as thin as I possibly could, spreading it over the entire area of the shield. By the time it was over, those two were locked in a steel ball, big enough to fit 2 people inside of it. It was thin, and I mean paper thin, but they couldn't see out of it. Even if they can somehow break through it, it'll buy me the time I need. The guy with the mask had begun to dodge, trying to move out of the way of the liquid metal heading in his direction. He even tried shooting one of those explosive blasts at it. It had no effect at all on the liquid steel in its pure liquid form. It simply scattered and then reformed, never giving up the chase and completely catching his attention. He saw what I did to the big brawn guy. He doesn't want to get it on him, doesn't want it crawling up his nose, into his lungs, blinding him, and so he's focused on it. He's completely lost sight of me coming around the other direction. As I ran up with every fiber of speed that I could muster, my entire body racked with pain. I couldn't help but cough up some more blood right before I got to him. He heard me, as he did, turning, but it was too late. As he turned, realizing that the direction he was moving in was heading right for me, I swung wide with the hammer, hitting him right in the head. His mask shattered. He spun around like a top, flailing wildly and flying across the air until he hit the ground, bouncing a few times, and then laying still on the concrete floor, which, by the way, had completely stopped moving. The bits of concrete and stone that were moving about stopped after I put up the orb. Concrete Boy might be able to manipulate the stone, but he has to be able to see it. He has to be able to know where I am. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Everything was working out just like I thought it would. I looked over to see the big brawny guy still struggling, trying to pull the liquid steel out of his face. Sorry, buddy. You can't break a liquid. No amount of strength will help you overpower it. Something you can't grasp onto, can't bend, can't break or shatter, completely nullifies that muscle power of yours, I thought, watching him struggle, beginning to flail, swinging wildly, moving in different directions, throwing flurried punches, trying to hit something, panicking. And then I heard a cracking sound as I looked over and saw that the thin barrier that I had put up around the other two starting to crack. It was paper thin, after all.